media. Let's see what we got here. Me tabs. Where's me tabs? Tab this. Let's check out some news while we wait. 'Cause I think there's some good shit on the horizon.
Anna detransitioned after 17 years, says doctors lied to him. What is this?
Detransition.
I medicalized 17 years ago at an LGBT center. I'm a CSA survivor. Doctors told me that...
CSA, what's CSA? Oh, something sexual assault, right? Criminal assault?
Oh shit,
Child
that's not good.
Oh, even worse. Oh my god. Wow, I didn't even know that.
Was wrong with me and how I felt about my body was not from CSA, even though I went there and said, did CSA make me this way?
CSA?
Yes, a childhood sexual assault. And they said
Wow.
no. They said no. They said being gay is innate and being trans is innate, and what you have is gender identity disorder. They diagnosed me with gender dysphoria, and I believed their bullshit for about 17 years.
Holy shit. I mean, I think it's very obvious that, like, if you think about it in a general sense, I bet sexuality is probably a mix of both, and people that have gender dysphoria is probably a mix of both. And the big issue that I think with gender dysphoria that people don't understand is that there's a really big spectrum of people that in one way or another display traits of the opposite gender, but they're not actually the opposite gender. Like a tomboy isn't a transsexual man, and a femboy isn't a transsexual woman. And so there's a huge component to this. Like, for example, there's that.
Ooh,
there's like cross-dressing, for example. Like just because a boy likes to wear a dress, that doesn't mean that he thinks he's a woman. There are maybe men that just like wearing dresses. I mean, they just think that it looks nice on them for whatever reason, or they just like the style. The same as, like, you know, you have Scotsmen who wear kilts. So there are all of these other components, and this is the big issue that I think a lot of people have with the way that trans stuff is pushed on very young people, is that they don't really have the full understanding of the spectrum. Now, and I brought this thing up. Let me see if I can pull it up and find it again, because I've shown this before, and it's a chart that's extremely important, and anybody on the internet fully understands this chart, but many people in real life don't. So learning the differences between sexual identifications, right? So if somebody likes drag, that doesn't mean that they're transsexual. If somebody likes cross-dressing, that doesn't mean they're transsexual. If somebody is a femboy, that doesn't make them transsexual. Traps are not necessarily transsexual. They could just be necessarily dressing up in a certain way. Futanari, that is a very different concept. Tomboy, that's another concept. And so if you have a one-size-fits-all, if you don't understand the way that your gender is, or you have any sort of conforming ideology or conforming feelings of the opposite gender, you're automatically trans. I think that's a huge disservice to young people because they don't understand the context of that yet, because they don't understand sexuality. Like, for example, you don't teach a kid multiplication and division before they understand addition and subtraction. And I think that basically approaching every trans issue and saying that, like, any kid that displays any sort of interest towards something that is the opposite gender is automatically trans, this is very problematic and very bad, because anybody on the internet knows that there's a huge spectrum of this. Like, for example, what a bullshit claim. Yeah, it's a bullshit claim. Like, for example, like, I've dressed up like a girl. That doesn't mean that I identify as a girl. Like, people that are trans are very different than people who dress up as the opposite gender. One of them believes they're the opposite gender. The other one knows they're not, and they wear the clothes anyway. That's a huge fucking difference. I wish more people would understand this. People, the thing is that if these people spent more time on 4chan, none of these problems would have ever happened. Because everybody's supposed to know this by the time they're like 15. But I guess whenever kids are 9 and they're being told this stuff, they haven't had time. They haven't even, these kids haven't even seen an ISIS execution yet. So, like, how do you expect them to understand it? They're getting spawn camped. Yeah. Cross-dressing is not the same as being trans. Yes.
Willing to tell me everything that you went through?
I had facial feminization surgery. I had sex reassignment surgery.
Wow.
I was on HRT for 17 years. Now I'm on a combo dose because I can't go off. I have multiple health conditions from transitioning young and for transitioning for so long.
Wow.
Wow. So what was it for you that kind of woke you up to, this isn't what I should have done?
I found out that homosexual transition was environmentally caused in almost every single case by childhood sexual assault or by internalized homophobia or failed boy syndrome. I was given a blanket diagnosis given to anybody who has a body.
I think that there's probably a spectrum of this where there's some people that are born gay and they're just set to factory default setting gay. And there's other people that, you know, there's a little bit of give and take there. Just the same as everything else. Literally the same as every single thing in the entire world. Like, for example, if somebody is like naturally tall, but they don't get enough nutrition, they won't be as tall, but they'll probably still be taller than average. If somebody, you know, naturally is going to go bald, they will probably still go bald even if they take certain medications, but it will happen at a slower rate. So everything like this is a spectrum. It's the same as anything.
Jeez.
It's the same as metabolism, blood pressure, you know, hairlines, aging, eyesight, everything. And so sexuality and IQ is another one. Like, you can have a dumb person and you can educate that person and move that, like, basically, like, let's say this is the IQ distribution and your IQ is here. Well, you can go in between here and here. You can't go to here and you can't go to here, but there's a spectrum here and you can move it back and forth. Bad take? No, this is common sense. It's common sense.
Issue as a child nowadays.
Did they ever try to refer you to like a therapist or any?
I went to therapy for a year. I saw psychologists. I was diagnosed. It took a year back then, not 15 minutes. And I was in the South on the East Coast. But they still believed that transsexualism was innate, that gender identity was this innate disorder that people just had. And like CSA didn't really rule you out.
How do you find your story received by people who continue to sort of push medicalization?
They hate me. They call me a bigot. They say that trans women are women. They say that
That's a pretty common phenomenon, huh? Yeah, it sure happens a lot.
gender dysphoria is a valid diagnosis. I've combed through trans history. I've read all of the old academics who created this. If you go back to like the early 1900s, transition was conceived by old academics who were trying to find a way for homosexuals to exist in a fascist world in Europe. It just so happens that AGP is also real, and that got latched onto. A bunch of AGPs transitioned, and fast forward 100 years forward, and we have an ideology that's based on lies that kids are told to as soon as they have issues. And
See, that's the thing that I'm talking about, right? Is that like when you're a kid and your parent sees that you're expressing interest in something that's traditionally for another gender, if that parent goes and says, "Oh my God, I think my kid's trans," that's a huge issue. That's a big deal.
forbid you're effeminate and you believe that something's wrong with you as a man because you like pretty things and are sassy.
Fucking exactly, yes.
How do you identify now?
I'm a gay man.
Have you lost friends or anyone by detransitioning?
I was canceled by every friend I had who was liberal in this city and had to leave the city.
Why is it important for you to be here?
Because people are being lied to when they're being diagnosed. They're not being diagnosed with what actually causes the gender dysphoria. They're just being diagnosed with a symptom of a problem. And there are multiple problems that cause those symptoms. And when you don't appropriately diagnose people, you lead them into a life of ruin. All of these interventions are permanent, they're irreversible, and they lied to me.
Wow. I really feel bad for him. Honestly, not gonna lie, I feel bad for him. Thoughts? Yeah. I mean, the thing is also, if this is happening to you when you're very young, you're a victim of child sexual abuse, and then you have all these adults telling you this is what you are, you're at the most vulnerable point in your life, and this is what's happening. This is awful, man. And yeah, I completely agree with that statement. And this is the issue that I think a lot of people have, is that I think that the amount of attacks that this individual has gone through like being like, you know, hated on and like being reviled, called a bigot and everything like that. This puts like, and remember what I said before about how everybody, like we were speed running the removal of gay marriage? And everybody said that I was insane and like this wasn't happening. And do you remember how I said that LGBT pride wasn't going to be as big this year because companies were afraid of doing it? And people said that I was a homophobe? Well, look at this. Here's some more graphs. Oh, look, it's more graphs that say that I was right. Wow, look at this. So American support for same-sex marriage, look, it's gone down. From 2021 to 2025, it's gone down almost over 10 points. And only inside for U.S. adults is what really matters, right? That's the green line. That's the average. It's actually gone down. And you can see that, like, for the first time, really, since, like, maybe a one little dip inside of 2000 and, like, after 2018. But, like, other than that, it's been going up steadily ever since it was allowed. And now it's going down again, which is kind of crazy. And, like, 13%? Yeah. And what does a point represent? Well, multiple points represent a line. And you can see Republicans especially have been completely radicalized against it because of, I think, these extreme trans issues. And you can see the same thing happening. Here's the other thing. LGBTQ Pride is seeing a mass exodus of advertisers and sponsors. San Francisco Pride lost 200K. Idaho's big Pride event lost 400K. Scared advertisers, flag bans, and Trump. The U.S. is in for a troubled Pride in 2025. So event organizers in red and blue states have seen an exodus of sponsors amidst anti-LGBTQ political climate. They insist the show will go on. Yeah, they're trying to keep doing it. And I said, guys, I tried. Why does nobody ever listen? Maybe I need to start showering more so people can start listening. Oh my God. They need to start. Why don't people listen? Man, I've been trying to tell them this shit. Nobody wanted to fucking hear it. Yeah, it makes me crazy. And so anyway, yeah, I don't know what the hell is going on. That might work. Something's got to work. Damn. They should stop the parades. They're obnoxious. The pride parades are okay, but the problem is when you have men in bondage that are there in a public space around children. That should not happen. You can celebrate sexuality without dressing like a fucking gimp. Like, are you kidding me? What the fuck is wrong with you? Really, that's not you don't need to do that. That's insane. And so, yes, it's gooner behavior. It is. And it's so fucking weird. And now it's alien. 9 years. It only took us 9 years to go from we just want to get married to we'll steal your children and mutilate them. No one can argue that gay marriage didn't pave the way for this. Gay marriage did pave the way for this, but that doesn't mean that gay marriage was bad. Like, for example, you could say that a lot of good systems, like, for example, actually, I don't know if I want to use any examples because the examples I could use could be misconstrued in pretty big ways. But there are a lot of things that are done that are good that end up having bad intentions. Like here, let me give you one example. So, like, the amount of support that single mothers get is something that also encourages women to become single mothers. It creates a reward structure around that because now they're able to get extra benefits and extra money. And so, is it good that women are single mothers? No, it's not. But is it bad that single mothers didn't get money? Well, yeah. And I don't support getting rid of any of those, by the way. I actually support giving more money to single mothers and more people like this. And that's coming out of my taxes, right? I mean, like, I have to pay, like, fucking, I think it's, I'm not making that much money, right, yet. It's not 8 figures, but I know it's going to be probably a lot, 7 figures of fucking taxes, right? A lot of money. And no. I have a different frame of reference and I think about things differently than other people do, right? And that's okay. I don't mind this. It's a lot of my money and that's okay. But why L? Yeah, I don't know why people think it's an L either. But what I'm saying is that things happen and they're for good reasons, but they create negative outcomes because people take advantage of them and they use them in malicious ways. That does not mean that you should throw the baby out with the bathwater. But and that this is true, but the problem is that it's only true in a way that it was never checked. My greatest regrets in life was supporting this abomination whenever I was a libertarian in my 20s. The entire thing should be outlawed everywhere. Look at this, 14,000 likes. Or you could ban transgender surgery and have gay marriage at the same time. Nope, we tried this and I'm no longer interested in half measures. And you see so many people that have become completely radicalized completely against not only gay marriage, but all LGBT stuff, or sorry, trans stuff, but all LGBT stuff in general. So giving money to single mothers increases single motherhood, which disadvantages children, and your solution is to increase money to single mothers, pure retardation? Yeah, of course, because that's not my only solution. My other solutions inside of a viewpoint is that I would like quadruple the amount of money that married couples received as well. So it's not about like the goal should be that no kids can't afford food. That should be the goal. Like, I think that you should have people say like, oh, well, you shouldn't have advantages for being married in society. No, you should have more advantages. You should get more tax breaks. You should get more amounts of child tax credits and stuff like that. So whenever I'm talking about giving money to single mothers, I'm looking at this in a one-dimensional thing, and I can see why I'm getting pushback on this. I understand your perspective, but can you see how in the context now it makes a little bit more sense? I'm for giving everybody more money, but proportionally, I want to give married couples more money because I think that's a stronger incentive and a better outcome for children. So that's the way that I feel about it. That's my larger viewpoint, and that way you guys can kind of see where I'm coming from, right? And so anyway, going back to this, but you see kind of, it's the old idea of the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I don't think this is the road to hell. I think that there are a very, very small subset of extremely radicalized, mentally ill, virtue signalers. And also, this is another big component, is that, again, we have two groups of people in society that cause all of our problems: Karens and incels. And the primary group is Karens, and in fact, the Karens make a lot of the incels. And you have a lot of these upper middle class Karens that push these causes and think that they're being a good person by doing it. This is especially true with young women because they never have to live with the consequences of these decisions. They never have to live with the consequences of, it might sound good to say that, oh yeah, it's okay to tell a 9-year-old that they're trans, because it's like, oh, well, I care about acceptance and I have trans friends and that's okay. But the reality is that they don't have to live with the consequence of that perceived altruism. And that's the big issue. What creates the Karens? You know what creates a lot of Karens is shitty men. Shitty men with bad leadership skills. A man that can't lead his wife in a way that is productive and, a spiritually, mentally, emotionally stable way. I think that they're the ones that give rise to Karens. I think so. I think that men definitely have a role to play in that. 100%. And so, yeah, comfort and boredom. Yep, definitely. I mean, there's a little bit of that too. Sure. Oppressive men. Yeah, there are oppressive men. But anyway, so again, I just wanted to show you guys, everybody was getting mad at me. Not everybody. What am I saying everybody for? There's like 10 people getting mad. People are getting mad at me yesterday for saying that this was going to happen with Pride. And they were also getting mad at me for saying that this is what was happening with gay marriage. And you can see the charts and you can see this happening. And here it is right here. And I wish more people would listen to this kind of stuff because it's so problematic and so dangerous. And I don't think anybody can really understand the context of it at all. Yeah, I don't know. Weak men create hard times. Yeah, I guess so, right? But either way, I really do feel pretty strongly about this cause. And I think that's a pretty big issue. So, yeah.
Hey, come, warm yourself.
Right. What else do we got here?
We got the usual suspects.
Seattle's mayor seems to protect Antifa over his own police force, and it's
I've seen that. Well, let's take a
LGBT
peek at
movement
this.
is failing. Oh god.
Some carry hate. We carry the largest trans pride flag to ever be flown in a national park and unfurled it on the side of El Cap to prove a point that trans is natural.
Please, tell me what's natural about having to wear a wig and tons of eye makeup to try and get people to treat you like a woman.
The Trump administration and transphobes would love to have you believe that being trans is unnatural, but species that can transition sexes can be found on every continent and in every ocean.
What the fuck
That
is
had to be
that?
the most disingenuous analogy that I've ever heard. Show me a human male that's become female spontaneously without spending like $100,000 in the operating room. Well,
It gave me the
Jesus
chills.
Christ.
even the surgeries don't change their biology. And just
No.
because certain animals can do things doesn't mean that humans can do those things. Some
Yeah.
animals aren't sexually dimorphic, and the females are just as strong as the males.
It's
That's not-
actually quite in times the opposite, where the females are larger in size than the males. Here in America, that's also the case, but in most normal countries, it's not.
Humans, though, there are a lot of differences between the sexes.
Spiders,
I
yeah.
mean, I don't think I've seen an analogy this bad since the croissant analogy.
If trans women aren't women, then is this big croissant not a croissant? Of course it's a
What the fuck?
croissant. It's made out of butter and dough just like any other croissant.
Right, a big croissant.
So it's made out of butter and dough, but what if somebody's made out of certain chromosomes? I feel like this is an argument that defeats itself.
Just
how do
brainwashing
you- how do you-
the stupider population
Do you never even think, like, what?
into not reproducing.
Croissant and a small croissant are still both croissants. Except that's not what's happening here. You're not a big croissant saying that you're a small one. You're a taco saying, I identify as a pastry.
So before I demolish this delicious
Basically.
and very valid pastry, repeat after me. Big croissants don't affect me in the slightest.
Yeah, that's not the case.
Ew.
In fact,
Jesus.
that's exactly everyone's problem and why people have so much energy against trans activism. We were all just out here minding our own
Brother,
business, and then a bunch of
ugh.
activists started inserting themselves into everything and saying, you have to treat us how we demand you treat us, or you lose your job. This sort of extortionist behavior is why people are mad at the LGBT crowd.
I'm actually non-binary and use they them pronouns.
I think that's a good assumption, or a good assertion. I think he's right by that. Yeah, true. Do they even understand how words work? Look at all those Pokemon.
Fuck.
What do you think?
Hell no.
I definitely could see that. In the best way possible, you look like you'd be non-binary. Slay, they. You realize that isn't a compliment, right?
I guarantee you that when people say that, 99% of the time,
They're just trying to be nice.
it's not meant to be a compliment.
Well,
And that's-
no, they're just trying to be nice. You look like a they, that's okay. Like, I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like it's all about intent. And I feel like a lot of the problems that these people have is that they're constantly walking around with a cross and they're just eagerly waiting for somebody to nail them up. They want somebody to nail them up.
Because as soon as you see the wacky hair color and the nose ring, oh wait, this person actually doesn't have a nose ring. Shocking.
It's just
But when
not in
regular
America.
people see the wacky outfits, they know they're about to deal with a very difficult or annoying person. Or a narcissist.
See, that's the real reality. Is it's not even
Bro.
about a person's sexuality. It's the people. I think this is what's happened. I think that a lot of people have gotten involved with these different things because they are narcissistic and they have personality disorders and they need to have some kind of like self-aggrandizement. I think that's what's been happening.
I mean, there are just so many examples of people with narcissistic
Put it straight. Most people have like some kind of underlying issue. That's why they are.
personality disorder
Where they are.
being gassed up by every major corporation for identifying as LGBT. And everyone hates stuff like this.
Yeah, and they're
From
getting
Today
gassed
USA,
the fuck
Women
up.
want to be her.
Oh,
men
what the
want to be
fuck?
with her. Dylan Mulvaney.
What the fuck
true
is that?
definition of beauty and grace.
and the
Bro,
Beast.
Dylan Mulvaney doesn't even want to be Dylan Mulvaney. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of trans people out there who just...
Why would you say that? It's so weird. Why would you even do that?
Want to mind their own business and go on with their lives. In fact, the right to be able to mind their own business was originally what the LGBT movement was pushing for.
Yeah.
And I think that's an idea that most Americans these days would have no problem supporting.
They do.
Right?
It's not that they don't have a problem supporting it. They already do support it. They're fine with it.
However, the activists, not the normie LGBT people, I'm specifically talking about the activist part of this community, constantly display the most self-centered and entitled behavior. And it's not transphobic or bigoted to point out when someone's being a self-absorbed asshole. Let's go back to...
Fucking exactly. Who is this guy? Who is this? Fucking finally. Yes, true.
That image. Women want to be her. Yeah, except for all the women who were pissed off at Dylan's woman face behavior. In fact, people were so mad at Dylan that Anheuser-Busch almost had to give up the Bud Light brand.
Jesus.
Men want to be with her.
$400 million?
No, they don't. Straight men don't. The second they find out you're trans, you're gonna get ghosted.
This video is for straight men and straight men only. I'm sorry, but how in the world could you not like me? Yes, I'm a trans woman.
You're using a filter. I can tell you're using a filter.
Yep.
Like, what is so different about dating me than a cis woman?
The fact that you have a penis. That's the difference. And people don't want that. It's pretty simple.
Oh shit!
It's the same reason why you know, like a guy want to date a girl with big boobs or something. It's a sexual preference. It's really just that simple. It's really not that like.
So
I mean,
simple.
I don't even know like. It's really just that simple. It's really not that like.
So
I mean,
simple.
I don't even know like what. Like it. Yeah, I mean, it's I don't even get this.
You can do everything that she can.
Except have children. Did you notice the narcissistic, I'm so great behavior? That's why people don't like you. The guy I was on a date with just found out that I was trans. Why is he just finding out on the date? Why wasn't this disclosed on the dating app? I mean, they were definitely using a dating app.
Oh man, I love this guy. Oh my god, I've never seen anything. I'm gonna subscribe. I'm gonna subscribe right now. This is, oh my god. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. I gotta pull this up because I said this the other day. I said this like this is thing. What's up? This is what I said about Creator Clash. I said as a general rule, if providing someone with certain information would make them less likely to make a purchase or make a decision, withholding that information is unethical. Also, the absence of information is the same as a lie because in both cases the intent is malicious. And that's what it is.
Yeah.
These are people that are actively trying to deceive you, and then they guilt you into being angry for being deceived. The intent is to deceive. You are participating in a malicious action.
Photos can be edited and the voice chat wasn't used. Why is it so hard to date straight men when you're just a normal trans girl who makes content for the internet? Well, there you go. Stop catfishing people and maybe you'll find someone who
Stop catfishing people. Exactly.
Literally what he's doing.
It's like if I was a girl.
So now you don't only have to worry about dudes catfishing you for your money online. You got to worry about dudes catfishing you in real life because they're trans.
And I dated a guy. I was going out on a date with a guy, and he said he was 6'5", and he was actually 6'1". I would probably not want to date him. That would be a really big red flag because he's a liar. Why would you lie about that?
Yeah, if it's not such a big deal, why lie about it?
Yeah, you're just lying. I mean, at the end of the day, you're lying. Like, what are you doing?
actually likes you. I mean, it's crazy how many trans people think it's perfectly fine to start a relationship out by lying by omission.
What are you even really disclosing? What is there to disclose? There's no deception. When you're dating someone, you don't have to disclose every single thing about yourself up front. That's the fun of it. You get to learn.
Well, there are certain things that you do disclose, right? That it's like kind of, it makes sense that you disclose. Like, for example, people should disclose whether they're in a relationship currently, whether they've had kids before, whether they have STDs. Let me think. Besides that, there's maybe a couple of other things too. Their age. Yeah, their age. They should disclose their age. And so there's a lot of examples of these things, and it's like it's again, these are people that try to like reinvent the rules for life because the rules are not in their favor or they're not working out in their favor. But the world isn't going to reinvent itself because you want to. That's not the way the world works. It's never
about someone new.
Considering that the status of your sexuality is a big deal for a relationship, that definitely should be disclosed before you even go on a date. Though in this case, I actually wouldn't worry because I don't think anyone's being fooled by you.
He shows off his results of facial feminization surgery. What is your reaction? Again, just reading the tweets. Don't get mad at me. Let's take a look at this. Bro, I'm gonna keep it a bug. You gotta go back and ask for a refund. Like, this was not a complete job. This is just incomplete homework.
Though to be honest, some trans people are more feminine than others, and it's harder for normies to tell. So in the case where someone is intentionally tricked and any form of sexual contact happens that they would otherwise not consent to, I think...
Fucking
that should be against the law.
Listen to this again.
Trans people are more feminine than others, and it's harder for normies to tell. So in the case where someone is intentionally tricked and any form of sexual contact happens...
Tricking people into sexual contact.
Yo, that's it. Tricking people into sexual contact.
Good or bad?
Catfishing.
Ah, jeez, guys. Ooh, that's a tough one.
That they would otherwise not consent to,
yep,
I think that should be considered sexual assault. These people are all about consent, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can't consent if you don't understand the terms of the deal. And
it's so disappointing that people...
Yeah, you gotta know the terms of service.
I've noticed this a lot, is that I think that people fully understand consent and they actively ignore it when it's inconvenient for themselves. I think that every guy and every woman, trans or not, understands exactly what's going on here, and they're just ignoring it because they can.
That's exactly what it is.
Trying to trick someone into consenting to something they otherwise would not consent to if they had full knowledge of the terms, then that is very much the mentality of a rapist. You aren't fooling anyone. Everyone knows that you aren't disclosing this information right away for a reason. And really, the best...
Yeah. You're basically
way to
a
continue
rapist.
to take power away from these people so they can't threaten us anymore is to just start calling stuff what it is. All the
He's completely right about this too. I totally agree with him. I think the best way to do this is to just be direct, honest, and upfront about it, rather than try to use euphemisms and platitudes and say that these people are actively sexually they're basically active sexual predators. If you are not disclosing you being trans because you think that somebody will make a decision based on that, you are preying on them sexually. That is what you are doing. That does not mean that all trans people are sexual predators, but if you are actively not disclosing that to somebody because you're worried they're going to tell you no, you are taking advantage of them, and that's manipulation. Should never happen. It's disgusting. It's disgusting behavior. Deceit is the issue? Yes, it's deceit. The behavior is predatory? Yes, it is. It's predatory behavior because you're trying to convince a person to do something that they would not normally do. It is beneficial for you.
Bullying that trans activists have been doing can completely be defeated if we just stick to reality.
True.
Which brings us to a trans TikTok influencer who goes by Lily Tino. Well, this person has already been brought up, but now I have a bigger point to make. If you haven't seen any of the content, this type of stuff is what Tino is famous for.
The bottom is from Thailand?
Coconut bread from Thailand.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am. And
Did I just hear that?
Oh, yeah, ma'am.
Thailand.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am.
I thought I did.
My bad, sir.
Oh my god.
And the middle one is from India.
Thank you. It just totally sucks the joy out of this bread tower. Makes me want to immediately leave because I no longer feel safe here. It's oh, my guard now has to be up. I'm not going to enjoy this bread as much because my guard is up. We should be able to go places.
What are you whining about? Jesus. You don't feel safe
I
because
think so,
someone
5
that
subs,
barely
I appreciate it.
understands your
Not have to worry.
because someone doesn't stand your delusion because they're from another country and don't understand it properly, and you know this.
I
You're
don't think I
just
really want this bread tower, actually. I think I'd rather have check.
Did anyone catch what went wrong here? I actually had to watch this multiple times, so let's do a quick repeat.
Coconut bread from
I think the big issue that a lot of people have with this is the fact that a lot of people, like this waiter, is just trying to do their best. They're not really, I mean, this is like, the issue is like this constant fixation on taking what these interactions
Take a
are
seat. I will
and
stay
then
quiet.
interpreting them in the worst possible way, and then treating people as if that interpretation is what their intent was. And I think that's exhausting.
That's true.
It's very
It's
exhausting.
mental gymnastics.
Yes, sir.
Cool.
I-
Oh, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am.
So Tino is mad because the waiter said sir. Well, it's kind of hard to call you a ma'am when you look like a sir, and Tino knows that people will make this mistake, which is why tons of misgendering videos are on Tino's channel.
I just want to tell you that the person who gave me this called me sir.
What?
Called me sir.
Oh.
Sorry,
Oh my
sir.
God.
He just doesn't want to pay for his
Holy
fucking meal.
fuck, man.
So he's basically turned himself into a Karen.
Just stop. Stop trying to make this. Oh, like, these people are just trying to do their job. They're waiters. These are like fast food employees, and you're trying
Fucking
to
with
lecture
them.
them about this stuff and get like what, free food or something? This is so
Yup.
weird. Like, in my opinion, there is no content that's lower than the intentional harassment or haranguing of service workers.
True.
I find this to be like the lowest form of content.
Yeah.
And it's actually one of the reasons why I don't go out in public and do live streams in public, because I know that, like, if I go to a Wendy's, for example, this is what happened. I went to a Wendy's, people found out the Wendy's I was at, and they started calling the store. And I'm like, okay, this is some woman who's working here, and her life is fucking awful. She's working at Wendy's. She's like 40 years old, probably has 3 kids, and she's getting phone calls, and they're asking, is Baldy there? Like, it's outrageous. Like, I don't. It's so
shit.
outrageous, and it's so disrespectful. And I know
shit,
it's
that's
not even my fault,
hilarious.
but I'm still the causal
hilarious.
factor that is making these that's making these things occur, right?
It's funny that it was not. It was just a lighthearted joke. Thank goodness. All of it, but
And
yeah,
it's
that's hilarious.
It's fun. No, it is funny, but the problem is that it's funny the first time and they get 50 calls. That's the issue. Like I think if it was just one time, they'd be like, haha, yeah, it's funny, and then maybe I'll give them like $20, right? It's like, sorry about the inconvenience, right? But like that's it. It's people can never get over this.
Yeah.
It's just like, it kind of just hurts a lot to get called sir.
You trying to get free food?
I'm not sir.
Nothing like a good misgendering. It is a knife in the gut when I get called sir. It hurts more.
You have the
so it's
jaw
not
of a
intentional because
sir.
it means like this is sir to him.
You have a fucking crazy ass
people are
man
gonna
jaw.
think that. I mean, like, that's not. I mean, like, that's not
What
that they
you
don't
talking
hate you.
about? Of course.
That's just they're gonna make their best guess.
Yeah.
A knife to the
deny
gut
that
that
you're
you
a
keep
man.
intentionally putting yourself in these situations and film them happening over and over again.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm such a fucking victim. I can't. Oh my God, guys! How is this happening to me? How does this keep happening? I keep cutting myself. Why are they making me do this? Stop it.
Again, even with the feigned politeness, everyone knows that you're doing this on purpose. And not just that, but Tino has openly talked about not actually caring about being called sir.
What?
Look, I don't need your approval to love my face. But honestly, keep these comments coming because they really don't bother me in the way that you think they bother me, and they boost engagement on my stuff, so keep at it.
A bunch of people saying sir.
So we have the mask off moment where it's actually not even, it's not even about this cause. It's about me cosplaying as one of the people that's part of this cause, making everybody else that's just trying to live their life privately and politely look like idiots. And I'm doing all this for internet attention, and you're boosting me in the algorithm, and that's the real. So this is all. So basically, you're cosplaying a trans person, trying to make them look bad, intentionally soliciting negative interactions. And who is this helping? Oh, that's right, you. And that's it. Certainly not trans people.
In the comments
Makes
is what's
them look
being
like
responded
assholes.
to. So now we know that Tino bullying people is completely about getting attention. In the comments
Makes
is
them
what's
look
being
like
responded
assholes.
to. So now we know that Tino bullying people is completely about getting attention. But let's go back to that bread video for a second.
We're supposed to say trans or just not use gendered language. It's like a pretty big thing that Disney has done. Nothing was wrong with bread. I just don't want it anymore. Just because they apologize doesn't mean she doesn't feel sad or offended. Yeah. Exactly, right? Like, if you've accidentally ever hurt someone and say, I'm so sorry, it was an accident, do you expect them to be like, oh, it was an accident? Of course, no problem whatsoever. All of that hurt is now undone. It's not
Well, part of it, yeah, actually. Yeah, because
you know
like,
it was
the thing is that if
on
somebody
purpose.
can't accept an apology, there's no reason to give them one.
True.
Like, why would anybody try to apologize to you and reason with you if you don't even want to be reasoned with, and an apology will just make you more mad? The intention, yeah, and the intention wasn't to hurt you. Like, absolutely that matters. I've had people that have done things that was negative to me, and then they apologize for it, and I'm like, oh, okay, I can see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I'm still, like, you can see why I was annoyed, but like, yeah, I get it. Okay, sure.
Sorry about what happened. It's okay. I would love to pay for the drink, please.
No, the drink is on me too, so...
You don't have... Are you sure?
Here we go. Wow, scam. This is how.
It's a Karen. It's an actual
Transform.
fucking Karen. Yep. Actual Karen.
It's
Look
a
at the
Kevin.
stance and everything about it.
You're good, yeah.
Okay.
It's a Kevin.
This is totally
now
Karen
you can see
behavior.
why Tino does this.
Yep.
Any narcissist would treat waiters like that if they got free food and special treatment
Exactly.
from it. You do understand they had to throw all that food out, right?
Yep.
However, I don't know if you guys caught this, but the waiter had an accent, meaning that English is not his first language, so he probably is not all that privy to the pronoun BS because it's esoteric speech. I mean, if there's any indication that he doesn't understand what's going on, it's that he immediately says sir again after being told to say ma'am. And the whole subtext of this is that this guy spends all this time learning English, and then Tino is out here threatening his livelihood over a minor mistake. That's why you got the free drink. It's because he's afraid of a sociopath.
That's another really good point. I'm glad he brought this up, because this is the other component to it that I think is also like really selfish, is that when you make videos like this and you put people on blast like this, you put their jobs at risk too.
Yeah,
so
you're
you're
gonna ruin
taking a
his
person
life.
who's ESL, or maybe not really completely like fully understanding of like your, you know, like your gender ideology, and you're putting their job at risk by bullying their manager or talking about this company or like this restaurant in a bad way. It's scumbag shit? Yeah, it is. He said sorry.
Path like you causing a scene and getting him fired, especially considering that this occurred at Disneyland, so you know that if the waiter stands up for himself, the company is not going to back him. So really this person is just making money off of bullying foreigners and using transgenderism as a shield after...
Oh, man.
being abusive.
He knows.
Because that's what
He
this
knows
is.
it's gonna happen,
abuse.
so he
And abuse
bullies them
seems to be
into
kind of a
fucking free
foundational
shit.
strategy of trans activists. Tino has a lot of this type of content, as well as stuff that progressively gets creepier.
Made it into Disney World. I don't really know what the deal is with bathrooms. You know, Florida is really conservative. I don't know what the rules are. Trans women are allowed to be in women's bathrooms, but I'm about to go and use the bathroom because I have to.
You're on your phone. You could just look it up on your phone right now. You could look it up. You would find out this information within 3 seconds. But you
Damn,
don't
he's
care
right.
about the truth. You want to create a scene. You're trying to make a scene at Disney World. Oh boy, this is just what all the kids want to see. Someone coming to make a scene about their complex gender ideology in front of a bunch of 7-year-olds. That's great.
To tinkle. If I get stopped, I get stopped, I guess. But I'm a woman, so I'm going to use the women's bathroom, and being in Florida or being in California or wherever isn't going to stop.
Okay.
For one, it's already cringe to be a Disney adult. Two, not only is there this fetishizing with trans people of lying about their status in the hopes of tricking straight men, but there's also a fetishizing of using women's bathrooms. Here's a whole office of biological males filming in the women's bathroom, and I can't imagine how unnerving it must be for women to have to share this space with people who are obviously biological men.
Oh, I go where I please. I will continue to go into women's restrooms, women's locker.
That's because you fucking... That's because you're a creep, dog. What do you mean? Of course you're gonna. Preying on children and women.
Filming in the women's bathroom, and I can't imagine how unnerving it must be for women.
I want to give an apology to a lot of you guys, some of you guys Arabs maybe, Indian, South American, Hispanic somehow, Asian. I don't know why all of us white people keep doing this shit. Like we can't have any of those white people rallies anymore. Like that never turns out very good, right? So we can never come together and talk about this. But like, I don't know why we do this. This is not me, okay? Like this is not me.
Just white people, bro.
White guilt from this? Yeah, this is, see, you talk about
Some
white
kind
guilt,
of American
not slavery. That shit happened a long time. This is it. This is it. It's so fucking weird, man. Guilt over the sins of the past? Yeah, this is what I have white guilt over. Holy fuck. A bunch of white people going to restaurants and harassing minority ESL service workers for not using the right gender. Holy fuck, how obnoxious.
Women to have to share this space with people who are obviously biological men.
Oh, I go where I please. I will continue to go into women's restrooms, women's locker rooms, women's spaces, because I am a woman, whether you like it or not, and there's nothing you can do about it. I go where I please. And so far, nobody's had the guts to even try and stop me.
No one has tried to...
So, you're saying that they're intimidated by you and this is a good thing? Like, what's the logic here? They don't have the guts to try and stop me. So they would, but they're afraid. Okay, so you're going into women's bathrooms and making women afraid, and this is somehow good?
Holy fuck. What a
stop you because it's a bunch of women who have like half your strength, and they don't want to risk you being a psycho who will violently beat them if they speak up about you using the women's bathroom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're gonna give me my fucking money back.
Excuse me, sir. There's a young man in here. You need to watch him out.
Excuse me, it's ma'am. It is ma'am.
They aren't protesting because they're afraid.
What is that, a GameStop crash out? Yeah, this is actually a crash out at a GameStop. Yeah. Holy fuck. I never saw
They aren't protesting because they're afraid. And what really should happen is that people should just stop going to places with mixed bathrooms.
Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of borderline predator behavior, Tino loves to go to Disneyland to explain how transgender surgery works with kids in the background and child-friendly metaphors.
Last summer, I got my cake pops removed, and the plan up until recently was to get my marshmallow wand reconfigured into a marshmallow tunnel. The outside of the wand is what becomes the inside of
This is so bad, bro. This is so bad. Like, why do you do this?
Trying to push this propaganda onto kids and children?
I don't know why people do this shit. Like,
this is what a predator looks like.
it's. I wonder if they, I genuinely wonder if they understand how much damage they're doing and they don't care, or they're just doing it because they're that full of themselves.
No,
I'm really curious, actually.
The tunnel.
This person needs to be put on a watch list. I think no one would be shocked if there are some skeletons in Tino's closet. These topics aren't appropriate for young kids.
See, like, I've never been the kind of person, and I don't like the language that people that are trans, and I don't play into the language that people that are trans are like a higher probability of having any sort of like sexual issues or whatever. I've never played into that, and I never will, because I think it's a stereotype and it's a demographic, and each person should be treated equally, right? And they shouldn't be like, you shouldn't be given the original sin by the nature of your identification or a group that you belong to and then be assigned guilt because of that. I don't think that's fair. But at the same time, like going to Disneyland and while there are children present explaining in metaphors like cock and balls surgery, this is very
it's fucked.
This is lewd behavior. It's lewd and inappropriate behavior.
Yeah, inappropriate, phallic.
Really, like, that's really all there. Yeah, it's weird.
Get the ick.
Hi, friends. Today we're going to talk about something super important. What it means to be transgender. It's a big word, but I promise that it's easy to understand. Ready to learn? The first thing I want you to do is close your eyes. Now think. Do you feel like a boy, a girl, or a little bit of both?
For those of you who don't know what's going on, this is
Baby Learning with Miss Rachel, baby songs, speech, and sign language for babies, toddler learning videos.
Dude, 1.3 billion?
Oh no.
Of Miss Rachel, who is a very popular creator for very young kids. A friend of mine has a 2-year-old, and I caught an episode while he was visiting where she was teaching toddlers how to say no, so that was great. Well, maybe it's annoying to parents, but probably very useful if they ever meet someone like Lily Tino. And I'm not just making allegations here. Tino literally has an OnlyFans account and advertises that account.
No! No way!
Oh man.
No.
This is just so, bro. This is so weird. This is so weird.
Your kids.
Are you sure you don't want to rethink the previous statement? No, I'm not going to rethink it because I know multiple trans people that don't do this weird fucking creepy bullshit. They're not predators. They don't act like this at all. And I don't think it's fair to lump them up with this fucking weirdo. This self-absorbed, narcissistic, attention-starved, obnoxious, abusive fucking weirdo. Absolutely not.
There's a lot of these people, though. It's crazy.
But and the problem is that my perspective on this is the minority perspective. I realize that the way that I see this is not the way that most people see this. And when average people see this, it makes them hate trans people. That's what I think is so sad about it.
In the same area where the videos targeted at children can be viewed. How is this not a crime? Can you see why people are mad now? Stuff like this happens over and over again, and this information gets pushed on younger and younger people way before it's age appropriate.
Yep.
And now they have stuff like this.
Applications. And this is the issue too, right? Is because like a young kid, if they imagine themselves as a girl or a boy, you're effectively grooming them because a kid hasn't even fully defined their own identity to begin with. And there's like girls that like boy things and boys that like girl things, but that doesn't mean that they're transsexual. Like I used to have like doll sets and stuff like that as a kid, like for sure. And like this is like have like a little house where I would like set up a little house and do just have like dinosaurs come in and kill everybody in the house. But I mean, like, you could say that at least half of that's like a girly activity for sure. And yeah, that was just what I used to do, right? And it doesn't make me a girl or whatever. I mean, it's just so weird that people look at this. And I think this is the problem and the damage that it does to kids, is that there's such a, like, these are the people that are constantly preaching that there's a spectrum for sexuality. But the moment that a person has anything that's not congruent with what the normative things that their gender are supposed to do, these people immediately default to telling them that they're transsexual. Well, that's not true at all. There's a lot of different variations of that. Like, so maybe you're not transsexual, maybe you're just a guy that really likes makeup. Like James Charles or something like that, or Jeffree Star. What's wrong with that? That's fine.
Why is it not
Open for Brave Trails 2025. Whether you're new or returning, get ready for an unforgettable summer in California,
JD
New
Vance,
York, or
yep.
Georgia. Brave Trails is the summer camp for LGBTQ plus youth ages 12 to 17. With creative programming, gender-neutral housing, and affirming spaces to be your true.
Gender-neutral housing for 12-year-olds?
What the fuck does that even mean? Hell no.
12 to 17? Yeah, this stuff is really bad. Yeah, I mean, it's a grooming camp.
Yep.
I've seen this before, and I wouldn't really go that far to say it, but it seems that way. It certainly seems that way. Sounds problematic. It sure does.
So,
wait, so you're gonna put a bunch of boys and girls with cameras in mixed housing? They're going to change and sleep in the same area with an age difference from 12 to 17? You don't see a problem with that? Unfortunately,
Like, I mean, everybody sees this as being bad. Yeah, this is sick.
Don't think they do. And what's funny is that I'm old enough to remember that back in 2020, I made a video about them medically transitioning kids, and I got gaslit like crazy with a bunch of wokies in the comments saying, no, they're just socially transitioning kids. They don't get medical treatment until they're adults. At that point...
Well, okay, so if the logic is that...
Hey.
Okay, let me get this straight. So if medical intervention is not happening to kids, then why are you getting mad about there being rules against medical intervention for kids? Because by your own definition, it's not happening. So, like, for example, if the government made a law against riding unicorns, this wouldn't really bother me because unicorns aren't real. I mean, am I... Like, I don't understand. How do people not come to these same conclusions? And by the way, I think this is the reason why people nowadays have had such a regression of critical thought. And the reason why is because basically, very, very fucking simply, these people don't, you can't think for yourself in these situations, because the conclusions that you come through by using simple logic and deduction will lead you to being branded as a terrible person.
Yeah, true.
And there were only a handful of news stories about people medically
think.
transitioning under 18. But just 5 years later, medically transitioning kids has been completely normalized.
Estrogen treatment is irreversible and would make Josie sterile. But Josie and her mother never doubted it was the right thing until an unexpected conversation happened one afternoon.
But on the inside, where nobody else can see?
Yeah.
Are you a boy or are you a girl?
Maybe I'm a boy inside and a girl outside.
Really?
Yeah, is that true?
Only...
That's
So-
child abuse, bro.
You might not understand why this is happening, and you might not get it, but I'm going to go ahead and explain a little bit of it, just so you guys can see it. So Munchausen by proxy is when women generally, or a parent decides that their kid, a caretaker, fabricates or induces an illness in a child, is disproportionately committed by women. Studies show that over 90% of perpetrators are female, with mothers being the most common. And once you understand what this mental problem is, this happening makes perfect sense. Everything about that is the missing puzzle piece that puts all of this together, in my opinion.
You know the answer to that.
Sometimes I think I'm a boy, sort of, but I want to be a girl.
Yeah.
Dr. Olson had a decision.
You are in the perfect place to start on blockers.
And she promises to begin giving her estrogen, female hormones, in 2 years.
Around 13.
How happy she looks. She's got, I'm getting paid, boy.
Wow.
You know how much she probably gets as a fucking kickback?
Wow. This type of thing only happens because these kids have no father figure around to ground them in common sense. Well, the funny thing is that the last time they had a father figure around that tried to ground them in common sense, the woman had that father figure's ability to access his children taken away from him because she moved to California where this kind of stuff was legal and he wasn't able to go there. These doctors need to be held accountable? I think so too. I do.
That's what I think. You're not going to wait until 16 to start. You know that, okay?
A lot of times it strikes me that had this happened just 20 years ago, thank you, I wouldn't have been able to give her blockers and she would have had to go through male puberty. That terrifies me. It's all done. Do you want a hug? I don't know that she would have survived male puberty.
I'm not really sure how these people have it in their head that it's okay to allow a young child to make a permanent decision.
It's all white people. I've actually thought about writing something out for why I think this is happening and why this is so prevalent in white people. Because I think nobody's talking about this. Like, nobody. I think the reason why is people are afraid to talk about this. They're afraid to say like why I think it is. Oh my God, you're right. Yeah, no, think about it. Think about like again. There's patterns. The Roach King's Manifesto. Yes. Like I've wanted to start writing and doing like if I was no longer able to stream, I would just start writing. Like if that's what I would do. That's what I used to do.
Like that, especially considering that the child expressed pretty heavy doubt, and maybe that's the best cue to not put your kid on life-altering medications when they turn 13.
Seems more like we're experimenting on children like the Nazis did, though.
It does seem a little suspect, I agree.
I mean, imagine if the Nazi scientists came forward and said, but the kids really want it.
The one thing that keeps me happy is that we're moving closer to a place where eventually people who do this are going to start getting punished for it. Especially,
I think they should be, and I think they should be retroactively punished for it too.
Yep.
I find this to be just like absolutely disgusting behavior, and
buy
I don't know why people are putting up with it.
Can't get drunk.
I think that they believe they're doing a good thing, but I don't think that anything could be worse than this. In fact.
Exactly.
Could you give some examples of the writing? Yeah, I used to write twit-longers kind of regularly about different things that I would have opinions on. Like just like the state of Warcraft, or about video games, or about like I did one about New World, right? And like I used to do this a lot more, and then like whenever I was a kid, like I was like, but you guys might not know this, but like both of my parents, like my dad's written multiple novels as well. You know, he worked in publishing. He was a publishing executive. My mom was also a writer as well, and so like I grew up doing this a lot, and so yeah, no, that's it. So I even like as a little kid, I would do this.
Since Twitter got bought and stories like these aren't being suppressed anymore.
I had facial feminization surgery. I had sex reassignment surgery. I was on HRT for 17 years. Now I'm on a combo dose because I can't go off. I have multiple health conditions from transitioning young and for transitioning for so long.
This person has to take medication permanently despite regretting the transition because of the damage that transitioning caused. And it's sick because the activist community loves to pretend that none of these drugs like hormone blockers had any side effects.
So what was it for you that kind of woke you up to this isn't what I should have done?
I found out that homosexual transition was environmentally caused in almost every single case by childhood sexual assault or by internalized homophobia or failed boy syndrome. People are being lied to when they're being diagnosed. They're not being diagnosed with what actually causes the gender dysphoria. They're just being diagnosed with a symptom of a problem, and there are multiple problems that cause those symptoms.
I think this is another really big
what doctors
paradigm
do with
shift
everything.
that a lot of people need to have, is that, and I think this is especially a shift that needs to happen in the language that people that are critical of, like, the person at the beginning of this video have. I think that there needs to be a shift towards much more of a form of, let me think a good way to say it, of compassionate language and of trying to help these people. Because I think that there's a lot of times where, like, everybody just sits around and makes fun of them, and it's like, oh, this person looks like a man. It's obvious that you're a man. But I think the truth is that a lot of the people that are, like, struggling with gender dysphoria, like, if you take a step back, have you guys ever had a time where, I guess a lot of us are probably, like, old enough now, where, like, you've looked in the mirror and you didn't like the way that you were aging, and it made you very uncomfortable and really stressed out? Have you guys ever had something like that happen?
Not really.
Yeah, right? Oh, okay, so like, imagine, like, that's what happens for these people all the time, every day, for their whole life, about everything. So, like,
shit, that sucks.
I think that we need to shift the language around for being critical of, like, some of these, like, extremes to being more compassionate for the people that are suffering from these problems. Because I feel like there's so much negativity and hostility that's going around. And I think it caricaturizes the perspectives that I think I have and a lot of other people have as, like, being mean-spirited and cruel, when the reality is the opposite. I think the fact is that we do have, in my mind, the morally good perspective. And I think that we should start acting like it. And I think that the way you act like it is you don't bully people.
People joke.
You just are genuine and honest, and you try to help them. And you help them in a way that doesn't make you feel better. It makes them feel better.
They don't want help, trust me.
Because I feel like a lot of the enabling for this movement, it's not about making the kid feel better. It's about making the mom feel better. And I find that to just be so disgusting and selfish.
What it is, though, the mom wants to feel better.
And when you don't appropriately diagnose people, you lead them into a life of ruin. All of these interventions are permanent, they're irreversible, and they lied to me.
I don't know if the numbers are that high, but sexual abuse history sure is commonly reported amongst people who transition.
That's true.
As well as symptoms of it, like drug abuse and homelessness.
True.
Now, the age-old thing that the activists like to say is that you could end the life of a trans person by misgendering them. However, if you look at the studies that they cite, the people in the high-risk categories are very often drug abusers or homeless, and HRT is not going to fix that.
And they don't care about the people who are indoctrinated.
I think there's probably a big confluence of reasons why people who are transsexual kill themselves. I think that there is a percentage of it is actually the way that society perceives them and how they're treated in society. And I think that definitely there are people that, if they were more accepted in society and they were treated better, the probability of killing themselves would be lower. Really, I mean, I think that's true. And like, that doesn't mean that it's somehow like our fault or anything like that, and you should never criticize anything about this. But I think that it's important to acknowledge that obvious reality, that whenever you are constantly misgendered, whenever people do constantly make fun of you for the way you look, whenever they do constantly try to invalidate your identity, this is an agitating factor that is damaging for a person's mental health. I think that you could easily say that.
Damaged your own mentality by trying
like
to
what
take
he's
on
saying is also true too, is that there are a lot of other, like conflicting factors.
Yeah.
Like who are harmed by this loosey-goosey system where you can walk into a therapist in 15 minutes and be given a gender dysphoria diagnosis.
Yep. Right. They don't care at all. I think when Lily Tino makes a video dressed as Miss Rachel, That's not about educating people.
What's this here? They're protected? They spend their whole life talking about the subject? They're protected? Don't need to walk on eggshells around everyone? I don't think that walking on eggshells, like, I'm not asking you to walk on eggshells around anyone, and I'm not saying that that's what you should do. But I think that, like, I mean, I don't know why, like, why is this even a point of contention? Shouldn't this just be obvious, what I'm saying? I feel like this is very obvious that, like, in a society where people act this way, yeah, I mean, like, I'm not blaming anything. I'm just, I think that people are very afraid to acknowledge any truth in a position that they don't hold.
No, here's the real thing. I think people really do have this. People do make fun of each other. People make fun of everybody. Guys get made fun of a lot. That's no excuse. These guys go out of their way to make scenes. Like, you just seen people recording themselves causing bullshit.
When oftentimes the truth actually is in the middle. And I think this is one of those circumstances.
And then just to go to say this at the same time. Very contradictory.
Not trying to find the next viral trend to build popularity and promote the OnlyFans account. I think these people rarely, if ever, talk about people who regret.
Obviously, it likes to exclude the transgenders that are normal, obviously. People just like to get freaky.
Transitioning. In fact, I've heard rumors that on Reddit, such people are shunned from the transgender forums.
Yeah,
but the nefarious part with kids is that kids are easily manipulated, will often do what they think will impress their parents, and they have no life experience. They've only been around for a few years, so how are they supposed to know at 11 what their desires are going to be at 30 or 40 or 50? Where are the adults? Adults
How can you know that you don't identify as a man if you've only been a boy?
Yeah.
Really? I mean, like, because I think that, like, for example, I never really, this might sound weird, but I never really even thought about, like, whether I was a girl or a boy growing up. It just didn't really matter. I don't know. It just never really mattered. Like, I never really thought about this. But, like, I mean, it's just, you know, a dinosaur. Yeah, I just, like, I don't know. I just did whatever the fuck I wanted, right? And, like, there were some things that, like, I mean, because, like, really, I mean, as a especially, like, in high school, right? You guys have seen photos of me. You know, I was a skinny, like, you know, like, skinny kid with long hair. Like, in some photos, I look a bit like a femboy. Definitely, right? Now, this was a long time ago. Now I don't, because I'm 34. But, you know, at, like, 16 or 17, maybe a bit more. And the fact is that, like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's not weird or bad or anything. And so it's very weird for me to see, like, it's a one size fits all, and it's the most extreme size.
Supposed to be around as advisors to prevent kids from doing stuff they might regret in the long term. In fact, as a society, I think it's people's responsibility to prevent those around them from making stupid decisions. A lot of people's dumb choices could be stopped if they didn't have a shitty friend group. You want people in your life who will sit you down.
It's a shitty friend group is a really good way to say it, because people are it's more important for them to enable feeling good about telling somebody something than telling them the truth about it. And I think this is one big issue that, like, you know, for example, you know, it's the, you know, a girl goes to her friend, you know, Michelle, am I fat? No, you're not fat. You're beautiful. And she's 400 pounds. And, like, you know, a guy goes to his guy friend. Is like, am I fat? It's like, I know 5 fat people and you're 4 of them. You know, it's like, that's where it is, right? The truth hurts. And so it's just the honesty and the directness, I think, is what's healthy and useful to people, right? And exactly, no, I'm being serious. Like, this is what, because like, there's a level of bluntness and crudeness that is sometimes counterproductive, but not really. Being honest is the most important thing.
And talk you through major decisions and give you corrective feedback. People need the feedback of others to know how to behave appropriately. It's something that I'm sure these narcissistic activists are missing in their lives. So let's do them all the favor of not appeasing their BS.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for watching. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you in the next video.
I had no idea this video was going to be this based. This was insane. Holy shit. Wow. Jesus. Well, there it is.
This is a good watch.
Yeah, extremely fucking based. Massively fucking based. Unequivocally, insanely Like, definitely fucking based. There it is. There's the video. Make sure to give this guy a like. Think before you sleep. I've never watched one of his videos before. I've never heard of his content before. And I'm glad I did. I totally agree with a lot of these perspectives that he's giving, and I think that he's really right about a lot of the stuff that he's saying here. Absolutely. And yeah, that's it. And I think very super based. Yeah, he really cooked with this. This was a really, really great video. I'll link it. He almost has 1 million subscribers too. And yeah, there it is. Hear me out though. Let me listen to what this person's saying. Shouldn't it be obvious that the LGP has been completely missed out of the video, and for good reasons? It's unironically the entire answer to the video's title. Well, yeah, I think you bring up a really great point, is that the question, why is the LGBT movement failing? And the entire video is about a handful of narcissistic trans activist streamers. I think that's a very revealing reality. Like, that is like, I mean, because I'm just being honest, right? I mean, there it is. It's just that fucking simple. So yeah. I find it to be very problematic and extremely frustrating to see this happen, especially with people that are so outspoken and so aggressive about this. And yeah, let's see here. And I don't often get to watch a live. This is funny. I instinctively tried to watch the next video. Yeah. Check out Liberal Hive Mind. I haven't sure. Yeah, I think he messaged me the other day. I never got back to him. There's been a lot of people messaging me. I haven't got back to him. But yeah. And I don't know, some of the plus size have ruined the movement as well. Yeah, but that's like a separate thing. Anyway, so why are they so concerned about being identified as correct gender but never ask the person serving for them correct pronouns? That's true. And there it is. Yeah, these people are professional victims and they're going around looking to create trouble. And that's so yeah, so I saw videos. Yeah, I'll have to maybe watch that at some point. But yeah, I really, really agree with pretty much everything he was saying in this video. I do. I'm very, very happy about this, and I hope that it continues. And yeah, more people talking about this in an honest and a direct way, I think is something that is very, 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 like, very needed. I'll say that for sure.
You better believe it, babe. Alright, let's see if we can't do a little bit of a mission. A little quickie. Yeah. That shit back. she wrote.